Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast. We are live Tuesday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And today we will be talking about the steps to an authentic you. Learn how to discover who you really are, what you feel, what you want, what you need, and then be able to express that to others in healthy, appropriate ways. When you are living authentically, you can have healthier and joyful, loving relationships with others and create an inspired and empowered life. Together, let's create a life you love. I'm your, excuse me, I'm your host, Nanci Deutsch, licensed clinical social worker, certified hypnotherapist, and intuitive coach. And I combine my counseling, coaching, and intuitive abilities to transform your life. This show is not a replacement for therapy or counseling. It is for educational purposes only. And I want to start off this week with last week's questions. So we were talking last week about your thoughts and how you can have those thoughts in your mind, and you can have that mind chatter, and your mind can be very busy, and you have that mind chatter, and you're thinking. I call it thinking mode. And you're so busy thinking that what's really important is learning to be able to quiet the mind. And that's also going to be really important as we talk about the steps to an authentic you. So we have Misty, who she asked, what if we run with a thought that was a chatter instead of an actual thought? Sometimes the floaters can be sticky. So one of the things that I was talking about last week is to imagine your thoughts as like clouds passing by. And so what Misty's asking is, what if you have those thoughts and the chatter is instead of the thoughts? Like, how do you know the difference? And those floaters, if you're stuck on a thought, they can be really sticky, just as she said. So what do you do? Well, what you do is you take a deep breath and you work on focusing yourself and focusing on perhaps your body or your breath, coming back. Because what happens when you're in the mind chatter, you will find that mind chatter is either the past or the future. So learning to be able to come back using your breath, using your feet, working on grounding yourself can help you get out of that mind chatter. And if you find that there is a thought that's sticky and you keep, let's say it's the same thought again and again, then that is a signal to you. Oh, what I need to do is to take a deep breath, focus on my breath, focus on my feet, and be able to work on coming back into the body and coming out of your head. So, Misty, I'm hoping you're here and I'm hoping you heard that. And if you have any other questions around that, or you would like to let me know you're here and that if I answered it, or if you have any other questions around it, love to hear from you. And I see that we have Allie in the house. Good morning, Allie. So welcome. And then we had another question last week. And this question was from Country Corners Gazette. And they were talking about this. That is something to think about. How do we determine which are thoughts to think on? So again, we were talking a lot about thoughts. So how do you know? How do you know which are the ones that are sticky, which are the ones, if your thought, and a good way to, if it's a positive thought or a healing thought or a loving thought, you want to be thinking it. But if it's a thought, a worry thought, like, oh, how am I going to pay the rent? Or what am I going to do about this person or this job or this situation? And you're obsessing about it, then the thought is actually not helpful. Because what happens is when you're obsessing or thinking about a person, a situation, an experience, then what happens is you
I keep thinking, if I keep thinking, I'll figure it out. If I think long enough, hard enough, deep enough, I'll get the answer. But no matter how many thoughts I think, it keeps changing until I don't even know what it is anymore. My life is unfigurable. Earth ain't for the faint of heart. You gotta roll with it. You gotta flow with it, or it'll fight you to the death. And it ain't a fair fight. I mean, think about it. Who's gonna lose? I'll give you a hint. Not life. The most delicate flower is still a badass. It sucks food from roots. It stares at the sun. It wrestles the wind and drinks rain. It even looks good old and dies without apologizing. There's a lot to learn from a flower.
Hi there. Sorry about that, everybody. Well, basically, this is about the thinking. And I remember where I was. I was talking about the thinking mind and how to get out of the thinking mind. So, getting out of that thinking mind and being in that place of quietness, of groundedness, of being able to allow yourself to connect more deeply with who you really are. And when you're connecting with who you really are, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, you'll be able to quiet that mind more easily. And when you notice that you're in thinking mind, then that's the signal. So you know that you're in thinking mind if you're in the past or you're worrying about the future, or you're obsessing about something that's happening in your life and you want to stop that. So that's part of what you want to work on. So now, being able, talking about the steps to an authentic you. Okay. So the authentic you, what is the authentic you? And how do you connect with the authentic you? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay. So first of all, let me define what I mean by the authentic you. And I see, Anastasia, you got a question. Okay, so I'm going to define authentic you and then I'll answer your question. So thank you for the question. Okay, so the authentic you is that part of you, the real or genuine part of you. It's a core part of you, that core energy of what I call light and love. And when you're connected with that part of you, you know you're connected with it because you feel peace or love or joy or gratitude, the higher energy vibration feelings. So that's how you know that you've connected with that authentic you. And really, when you're connecting with the authentic you, you are being true to yourself. You have the courage to be you, no matter what anyone says. And no matter what anybody says or does or thinks, you're allowing yourself to be you. But most of us grew up in families where it wasn't okay to be who we really were. It wasn't okay to be authentically us. And so we need to relearn and redo, regrow, and heal so that we get to the deep levels of who we really are. And that is our authentic being. And I call that our higher self, the wise, unconditionally loving part of you, your soul, the core energy of who you are, that source of light and love and your characteristics. And the higher vibration energies, when you're connecting with that, it's easier to be the authentic you. So let me get back to Anastasia's question, and I see some more questions coming in. Anastasia asked, when does it cross over to being an obsession? So I guess the best way for you to look at if your thoughts are becoming obsessive is if you can't stop thinking them. So the way that I would describe obsession is like there's this, it's like you can't stop. It's like it's compulsive. It's overwhelming sometimes. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. I think that that would be helpful. So let's say, I have an idea. Okay. So let's say you were talking to a friend and you were really having a good time. And then they did something that maybe made you angry. And then you said something. Now, again, this is not authentically you. What happens is sometimes you may act out a feeling like anger and then regret it. Okay? So they may have pissed you off and then you said something like that was maybe hurtful. And you could see how much they got hurt. And then you felt really badly. And you felt really sorry. And you couldn't stop thinking about that mistake. And you were obsessing about it and obsessing because it was like you couldn't stop thinking about it. And so that it would become an obsession, like a way that, let's say, if the thought was, oh, I really believe that I hurt this person and I feel really badly, and you may have said it in the moment or you may need to say it, and you had the thought and you were able to move on in your day, and you realize that you want to make amends or you want to apologize or do something to help heal the relationship. Now, an obsessive thought was, I can't believe I did that. I'm so stupid. I put my foot in my mouth. And then you start beating yourself up for the mistake. Now, you made a mistake and you feel really badly, but beating yourself up for that mistake is not going to help you. And so if you keep thinking about again and again and again that thought, like, I can't believe I did that, what's wrong with me, blah, 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 and you keep doing that situation, and you keep replaying it again and again, that becomes obsessive. So that's an example of what happens. And hopefully that was adding to the understanding of the obsessive thought. Now, what do you do with that? Okay, so what I would support you, if you make a mistake when you're in a relationship and you're connecting with somebody, and maybe you say or do something, and you may say, I'm sorry in the moment, but then you may decide, let's have a conversation later. Now, first of all, you want to make sure that you cleared your anger because they may have activated or triggered you and triggered your anger because what they said or did something reminded you of, let's say, your mother. And your mother would do or say things and you would easily get triggered. And so this person easily triggers your mother. So then you need to work on working through the trigger. And when you feel calmer and able to talk to them, you could say, look, I'm really sorry that I said da, 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 da. And I'm hoping that you can forgive me. And I really care about you. I love you, or whatever you need to say to apologize. And I also realized that what I did was not good or healthy. And then for your process, and you may choose, if they're a close friend or a relative that you choose that are supportive, you may choose what got triggered, you can share. If not, if it's somebody who's more like an acquaintance or a coworker or something, then just keep it short and simple, and that's it. But the most important thing is for you See, we're all going to make mistakes. Every single one of us, we're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. But the most important thing is not that you made the mistake. It's what you do with it. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about learning from the experience. It's a learning opportunity to take what happened and ask yourself, how can I learn from this experience? So if you reacted, what you may want to think is, okay, let me breathe and work on not reacting, especially with anger. You know how I always talk about, those of you who listen on a regular basis, I talk about taking a time out. If you're feeling angry, then you want to take a time out and not react and connect with them later when you've calmed down or you process through. So hopefully that answered your question. Okay. And then we have a question from Misty. Okay. I guess you heard my answer. When things get stuck from sticky thoughts, what should we do to rid it from our thoughts? So when you have the sticky thoughts and you're wanting to let go of those sticky thoughts, then we talked a little bit last week about distractions and distracting yourself. If, like, for example, if it's a thought that you need to process or get clear on, then one of the things that I do, that I do more and more now, is I work on handing it over. And handing it over to God or higher power or the universe, whatever you choose to call it, handing it over to the angels or your guides. So if there's a situation that you're dealing with and you're not really sure what to do or how to deal with it, or imagine taking this situation and just handing it, putting it in the God's hands or the angel's hands or guide's hands, and just asking for help and clarity and the higher answers on what would be the highest good for me and this other person, if it's a person that you're dealing with, or what's the highest good in this situation, and help me get really clear answers. So you can hand it over. And if you're still having the sticky thoughts, then one of the biggest things that you can do is, because when you're in those sticky thoughts, you're in your mind and you're in mind chatter or you're in your head. And so one of the really important things would be coming out of your head and into your body. So how do you know when you're in your body? You know when you're in your body because you can feel your body. Perhaps you feel your breath. You know how I'm always talking about the breath, and whether you're using belly breath, the deeper breaths, you're noticing your breath. You begin to really notice how you're breathing. Are you breathing shallow or deeply? You begin to notice where you're sitting or standing. Are you inside or outside? So it's like you really are noticing. And what happens is when you become in that state of noticing and observation, you actually become present. And you come into present time. And that is what you want. You're wanting to become aware and present. So the best way to handle sticky thoughts is to come out of your head and come into your body doing something, and maybe it would be moving. Maybe it's stretching. Maybe it's yawning. Maybe whatever it is, okay? It's doing something that you become aware of, your body or the environment that you're in. It's changing the awareness from, because when you're in those sticky thoughts, first of all, I want to acknowledge you, because the first thing is you become aware that you're having the sticky thoughts or the obsessive thoughts. And then once you do that, then you can take an action to come out of your head and into your body, into your breath, and working with that. Or taking a walk outside and focusing on your breath, focusing. See, if you go outside and you continue to think the same thought, then it doesn't really matter the location. What you want to do is become aware. Let's say you go out and you go to the beach, or you go to a lake, or you go to a garden or a park. Really, you know that saying, stop and smell the roses. That's what you want to be doing. So, Misty, hopefully I helped unravel some of those sticky thoughts, and let me know how that is for you. And then we have Country Corner's Gazette. So Country Corner says, how would we reach the authentic, and how would we know we are there? So first of all, I want you all to know that being authentic is a journey. It's a process. It's not like, poof, I'm authentic, I'm already there. Because here's the thing. If you grew up, and most of us, okay, I would say a large percentage of us grew up in families where it wasn't okay to be authentic. And so learning to become your authentic self, who you really are, is this journey of self-discovery and self-love, and it's an amazing and exciting journey of the self. And when I say the self, it's the big self, the self with a capital S. And your authentic self. And one of the ways you know that you've gotten to more of that authentic self is you don't need the approval of others. You don't rely on others to satisfy all your needs. You don't look to others to figure out what you're feeling. You are able to connect to that place inside of you where you know what you want. You feel what you're feeling, and you learn to be more. You become the human being. You know, it's so interesting because we're human beings, but what we've learned is to become human doings. We've learned to do this, do that, and go from one activity to the other. Some of you may be multitasking. Some of you don't, it's hard to sit still. It's hard to be quiet. And so we become human doings. Learning to be in that moment, like when I was talking about being with your body or the sensations, or being with nature, being present in the now with self. And the feelings, okay, so when you're connecting with your authentic self, there's layers. So you want to authentically feel what you're feeling in the moment, And that could be sad or mad. It could be scared, or it could be other feelings. And what happens is that as you allow yourself to feel and really feel the sad or the mad, what happens is the layers release. So that then you can go back to feeling peace or stillness, a quietness, the quiet mind. Or you can feel the sense of love or joy or gratitude. Those are feelings of that authentic you. And again, this is a journey. This is a journey of unfolding. And so even if you have moments, and a few shows back, we talked about those moments of stillness. Even if you had those moments of peace or love or joy or gratitude, and you're like, most of the time you're not feeling that, it's okay. No, as long as you're in the journey and you're working on discovering more, the fact that you're here, I really want to acknowledge all of you for being here live, for coming and asking your questions. Thank you, because your soul is thanking you for being here, and I'm thanking you for being here and asking your questions. And being curious on the journey and allowing yourself to explore and open to new possibilities and new ideas and new insights. So congratulations. And those of you who may be listening to this or viewing it at a later time, you too, congratulations for being here. Because that is you saying, I want more. I want an inspired and empowered life. So welcome. So thank you. And so hopefully Country Corners that helped you get clarity about what that authentic, and we're going to talk more about the authentic self so that you can get more clarity and understanding about it. We'll continue to talk about it. And before we go, I go to the next questions because I know that a few more came in. But before we do, I want to support all of you that I have a guided meditation and a PDF so that you can read the meditation if you don't want to do it, but it can help you get back to that authentic self. So go to inspired and empoweredliving.com /meditation. MEDITATION. So again, inspired and empoweredliving.com /meditation. And it's the name of the show.com and then /meditation. So, and that can help you to calm yourself down, clear your energies, and connect more deeply to the authentic you and ask a question and perhaps get your intuitive answer. So, really powerful. I've heard some really great stories about that meditation. So you definitely want to download it. Okay. So let's get back to the questions. Anastasia asks, can that obsessive thinking turn to a worse thing if you don't get out of it out of that stage? Yeah, it can. Because here's the thing. If you are in the obsessive thinking and let's say you're beating yourself up, you're hurting yourself. You're hurting yourself. You're really angry at yourself, and that actually hurts you. And the obsessive thinking, again, if you're in that obsessive thinking, you may continue to do or say things that you later regret. So what can happen if you don't get out of, like, that's why it's really important for you to start becoming more aware. Conscious awareness is really powerful, because as you become more consciously aware of what you're doing or what you're thinking, and if you're in the obsessive thoughts, then you can say to yourself, what can I do? What can I do right now to come out of this obsessive thinking? Ask yourself the question. And maybe it will be using your breath. Maybe it will be journaling. Maybe it will be doing some kind of art. Maybe it will be going outside and taking a walk, or exercising, or doing some yoga. Whatever it is, it's finding a way to come out of the obsessive thoughts. Because here's the thing, you don't want to hurt yourself or anybody else. And obsessive thinking very often ends up hurting you. So I'm really going to support you. Remember, this is a journey, and learning to become aware. And maybe I'm planting seeds for you, seeds that all of a sudden you may never have been aware that, oh my gosh, I'm in obsessive thinking right now. What can I do for myself? Maybe I can take a breath and listen. Take a breath and even listen like I was almost whistling. Again. And what happens is you come out of the thought and into the body and into the process that you're in. That's what you want to do. And so this is, remember, becoming aware and being in the journey is the most important thing of all. Okay? And okay, so Mickey asks, and hopefully, Anastasia, that answered your question. If you have any others about that, please let me know. Okay, I want to make sure that I answer that. Mickey asks, why do multitaskers multitask? So, multitaskers multitask usually because they have a lot to do and they feel there's not enough time to do it in, or that what happens with multitasking is usually, and I'm not going to say all the time, but usually you can't give yourself fully present to something when you're multitasking. Now, there are times when we all need to multitask, and there are times where we need to really focus. Now, sometimes people can't multitask, and that's okay. All right. It's really okay if you can't multitask. So I'm not making multitaskers wrong. It's being able to, multitaskers, they sometimes just have a lot that they're thinking or doing. And I see Allie says some multitaskers have ADHD. And ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And so what that means is they have a hard time staying present to the task. But I will also tell you, okay, when I've done training on ADHD or other things, one of the most important things that all of us, including those with ADHD, can do is learning to become mindful. Now, I'm not making multitasking wrong, because I believe we all do it sometimes, or most of us, many of us. And to become aware when you're multitasking, okay? And to become aware when you're multitasking, and then to make a choice. Is this something where I can pay full attention to? Or is this something where I need to multitask? So you ask yourself. It's learning to have conscious awareness and then making a conscious decision that empowers you. And so it's really asking yourself, is this a situation where I can multitask? Or is this a situation where I need to be fully present? Now, an example where I'm going to support all of you to be fully present is if you've set up a conversation with somebody and you have a conversation and you want to be fully present with the person that you're having a conversation with. That is not a time to multitask. In fact, when you're having a healthier relationship, what you want to do is you want to ask the person, when would be a good time to speak so that we can both be fully present? That would be an important time not to multitask. Obviously, driving is not a time to multitask. Okay? You don't want to be doing your phone and looking at the phone and driving. Not a time to multitask. So, again, this is about you asking yourself, in the situation, what's going to work for me right now? And how can I get this accomplished if I'm not multitasking? Or when can I get this accomplished if I'm not multitasking? So hopefully, Mickey, that helped you. And if not, you can always ask more questions. Okay, so Anastasia asks, Anastasia asks, would doing the breathing help get into the present? You bet. That's why breathing is so powerful. And in all the spiritual teachings, there is some breath work there, because breath is the breath of life. And breathing, when you focus on your breath, it's you becoming present and you becoming aware, so that you're fully present and centered and connected. So keep working on that breath. Keep working on the breath, okay? Because the breath will help you become present. Well, that breath will help you become present. Okay, so Misty says, we have some of the best conversations in the car while driving long distance with others in the car. So thank you, Misty, for sharing that. Okay, so I want you all to know that none of this is all or nothing. Okay. When I say to have I have great conversations when I'm driving too, as long as I'm doing hands-free, okay? So that my hands are on the wheel and my eyes are focused on the road, and you can have conversations. But I'm talking about a conversation when, let's say, there's been something that has been bothering one or both of you, or you have a conversation where you need to really work and hear each other and reflect back. So I'm not talking about visiting conversations, all right? I'm talking about healing conversations. I guess that would be, thank you for helping me define and make that distinction. So we have visiting conversations where we're chatting and having fun or enjoying each other's company. And then there are healing conversations. And healing conversations are really an important aspect of relationships. So, okay, we're going to talk more about that next week. Next week, when we talk more about the steps to an authentic you. And I see Ali says, I agree with Misty. The car is when I can actually talk to my husband because he's listening. LOL. Okay, so I hear you, all of you, saying, I get that. And you know what? Let's talk more about it next week. All right. So I love this conversation that we're having. See, look, we're having a great conversation right now. So we will continue this next week on Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast. And we'll be doing Steps to an Authentic You Part 2 and going deeper into the last few questions or comments, I shall say, and we'll talk more about it. And Anastasia has a question. And Anastasia, I'm going to get to your question next week because that's going to be part of the next week's conversation. All right. So join us next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, my YouTube channel. And you can follow the podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, Amazon, and many more. And so I wish you all an inspired and empowered day and an inspired and empowered week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye for now.